Oh, we got some drama in MAGA world, y'all. We got some drama among the far-right figures. The Daily Beast is reporting that this MAGA superstar, Stop the Steal guy, Ali Alexander, he has now come out and apologized because he was caught asking teen boys for dick pics. Remember, this is one of those guys who was part of, like, the anti-groomer crusade. Yeah, we gotta stop these leftist groomers, these pervert pedophile teachers, bro. We gotta stop them. Meanwhile, he's sexting underage boys. So they say, here's what he said, quote, "I apologize for any inappropriate messages sent over the years," said Ali Alexander, an ally of former President Trump and white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Now, by the way, in this instance, apologies might not be enough because, you know, this is criminal stuff here. You're soliciting underage boys for sexual pictures. Now, he also goes on, and this was super weaselly. Maybe he feels like he has to say this to avoid potential charges, but he was like, well, I mean, look, I've always been open about the fact that I struggle with same-sex attraction. I never hid that, and, like, I apologize for that. But a lot of the stuff was, like, faked, too, and I wasn't asking for, you know, they're lying when they say I was asking for, like, dick pics and stuff. But Milo Yiannopoulos had the receipts. He dropped it, and they're very clearly messages. Now, he would argue, Ali Alexander would argue, oh, those are doctored, but I don't really believe it. I don't believe him. A key figure in the pro-Trump Stop the Steal campaign has apologized after being accused of asking teenage boys for sexual pictures. Ali Alexander has become one of the most ubiquitous figures in the MAGA movement. Trump himself reportedly requested that Alexander speak at his rally. Oh, Donald Trump. Look, Donald Trump is the most hilarious man in the world because you could be clearly psychotic, sociopathic. You could be a serial killer, but if you say nothing but positive things about Trump, he'll be like, this guy's wonderful. We should make him Secretary of State. It'll be phenomenal. It'll be the greatest thing anybody's ever seen. Really great guy. Great guy. It's like, sir, that's son of Sam. Well, it's son of Sam, dog of Sam, grandpa of Sam. I don't really care. He loves Trump, so Trump loves him. He asked him to speak before the riot, with his appearance only quashed by a last-minute intervention from Trump aides. So, in other words, Trump's, the people who are actually sane who are around Trump, my guess is these are the same people who had to talk him out of doing a literal coup. Those same lawyers who were doing it. They were like, are you insane? This guy's got a track record of being a total psycho. What's wrong with you? But this week, Alexander stands at the center of a scandal that raises questions about how powerful men in the far right treat their young acolytes. Quote, "This is too gay," Alexander said in a statement issued Friday night that addressed the allegations in broad terms. Alexander, who has described himself as bisexual in the past, added that he was battling with same-sex attraction. Okay, by the way, that's not something you battle with. That's like me saying, I'm battling opposite-sex attraction. What does that mean? What does that mean? That's like saying, I'm battling the fact that I get hungry every day. You're going to lose that battle. There is no battle. You're going to lose that battle 10 out of 10 times. The budding online scandal has also roiled the pro-Trump and white supremacist America First movement. Let him fight, baby. Just months after it reached new levels of notoriety after its leader Nick Fuentes dined with Donald Trump and rapper Kanye West at Mar-a-Lago, now Fuentes is facing backlash from his own supporters over whether he ignored warnings that Alexander, his friend and ally, was allegedly soliciting nude pictures from young men within Fuentes' movement. So in other words, Nick Fuentes knew. Now, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we know Alex Jones, for example, was caught looking at trans porn. I believe Nick Fuentes, they call him a chaser too, right? I think he was going out, I don't know if he was involved in like furry stuff or going for trans people, but like all these people who are preening all the time, and they're leftist groomers, and this is degeneracy. The second they feel like no eyeballs are on them, they're like, oh my God, throw some dicks in my face. Let's meet with some trans people. Let's get freaky. I got to get my nut off, bro. Like that. This is what these people are like. Just total brazen hypocrites. And in case of Alexander, maybe a literal pedo. On Friday night, Alexander, who was questioned by the House January 6th committee about his role in organizing a canceled rally dubbed the Wild Protest outside the Capitol, which drew crowds to the building right before the riot began, issued a statement Friday offering a general apology. I apologize for any inappropriate messages sent over the years, Alexander wrote, adding later, when I've flirted or others have flirted with me, I've flexed my credentials or dropped corny pickup lines. Other times I've been careless and should have qualified those coming up to me's identities during flirtatious banter at the start. Alexander didn't respond to a request for comment from the Daily Beast. In his statement, he claimed he had also been targeted by false accusations and edited screenshots of his messages, but declined opportunities to point out which accusers or screenshots aren't legitimate. Rumors about Alexander's alleged sexual behavior towards younger men have circulated in conservative online circles since at least 2015, but they reached a new level late last month after Milo Yiannopoulos, you all know who he is, turned on Alexander after Alexander and Fuentes pushed him out of a potentially lucrative position in West's nation presidential campaign. I love that. I love that. The girls are fighting, y'all. They're fighting. So in other words, I wanted to be a careerist and suck up to the A-list celebrity and get even more famous as a result of it, and you stopped it. So they all have dirt on each other. And they're all like, oh, I'm going to drop it the second I feel like I was backstabbed. By the way, I love the idea that these people like Fuentes and Ali Alexander, they're probably like, we have to protect Kanye from crazy people like Milo, so we got to push Milo out. But it's like, you're Nick Fuentes and you're Ali Alexander. You're just as crazy, if not crazier, than Milo Yiannopoulos. So you should axe yourself as well. Yiannopoulos started releasing video interviews and other evidence meant to prove that Alexander sexually propositioned both adult men in their 20s and at least 2 teenagers. Yiannopoulos, whose own career as a far-right pundit imploded in 2017 after remarks he had made downplaying the seriousness of pedophilia surfaced, claims he has more damaging videos to release about Alexander and Fuentes. By the way, shout out to our friend TJ Kirk. It was on TJ Kirk's podcast that... I think it was the Old Drunken Peasants podcast that Milo Yiannopoulos made those comments, basically about how, hey, sometimes a relationship between an old pedophile and a young boy, sometimes that's great. Crazy. Yiannopoulos claims he's releasing the video against Alexander because Alexander dropped Yiannopoulos' name to entice young men. One screenshot purports to show Alexander dangling the prospect of a meeting with Yiannopoulos to a teenage boy. Quote, the reason I'm doing this is because he used my name, Yiannopoulos told the Daily Beast. I think it's much more likely that he's doing it for the other reason they stated, which is he felt backstabbed by them for whatever reason. They pushed him out of the Kanye circle or they excommunicated him from other factions of the right-wing movement. I think that's much more likely. In 2017, Aiden Duncan, a 15-year-old boy in Colorado interested in right-wing politics, sent Alexander nude pictures after the MAGA activists asked him for them. Oh, man. According to an account Duncan gave in a March 2023 podcast appearance. While Duncan was a high school sophomore and just starting out in politics, Alexander was a 32-year-old with a decade of political work for the Republican Party behind him, and now he was willing to share the connections he had gained through that work with Duncan, as long as the teenager met certain preconditions, including secrecy. You'll have me sharing my entire network with you, Alexander told Duncan, according to Snapchat screenshots reviewed by the Daily. So this is very like tit for tat, pay to play type stuff here. That's what this is. So it's like he knew what he was doing. Every step of the way, he knew what he was doing. Again, we could easily be talking about, criminal charges here for Ali Alexander as a result of this. So the other portion of this is that it looks like there's evidence that Nick Fuentes knew every step of the way and didn't care, turned a blind eye, and people are now accusing him of selling out his own Groyper movement or whatever. So they are fighting, man. These guys are going right for the jugular. And you even had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who once spoke at Nick Fuentes' conference, right? It's just white nationalist gathering. She turned on Fuentes because obviously Fuentes is an open white nationalist. So Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't want to give the game up that quickly. So she distanced herself from it, went after Nick Fuentes. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling for, I think a congressional investigation into Ali Alexander, potentially Nick Fuentes as well. So really, spilling the tea. And then in response to that, you had Ali Alexander chime in and say, Marjorie Taylor Greene loved me until, in December 2022, I exposed the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene committed a crime. Now she's trying to intimidate me and other right-wingers with smears and lies, so I do not expose her crime. I have the receipts and I will not be intimidated. Remember this night? And then you have the picture of Ali Alexander and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, and this is in response to the green tweet I just referenced, which is her saying, look, we need, the FBI should investigate. It wasn't a congressional investigation. It was the FBI should investigate Ali Alexander, Nick Fuentes, etc. So the right is tearing itself apart. But you know what? What did you expect to happen when you let the fringe of the fringe into the mainstream? And that's what happened. That was the Trumpification of the Republican Party. Look, you always had, you'll never convince me otherwise. The right-wing politicians have always been wrong on policy. Whether it's Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush, and Dick Cheney, one as loathsome as the next. The difference with Trump is he's just as loathsome on policy, but he also welcomed in with open arms the most psychotic and fringiest people in the country. Whereas with Dick Cheney, even though they agree on policy completely, he used to like make fun of the fringe of the fringe. In fact, he would even cross the line and describe like rednecks in classist terms, basically being like, we're just using these idiots, right? Like, we don't like them. But Trump was like, hey, let me take the most extreme people I can find and welcome them in with open arms. And would you look at that? Everybody's eating each other alive. Let them fight. Just let them fight. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.